Oh, whoops. We're Jesse Hughes, Boots Electric, and
Dave Ketching
from the Eagles of Death Metal.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about gear. Dave, in our live situation, obviously the studio is different than the live, but why don't you give us a rundown of what you play live in terms of amplifiers?
Orange only.
Which orange models do you prefer?
I'm using the OR50 and the Dual Dark 50, and I like those a lot.
The blend of the two, and which cabinets are we using on those?
I'm using a 412 orange cabinet and a 212 with the Dual Dark 50.
Now, what do you find about the orange? I mean, because I have my own opinions on it, of course, which we'll get to in a minute, but what do you find? I mean, what is it, first of all? What do you look for in a roadworthy rig? I mean, because we are talking roadworthy. We're talking, of course, about amplifiers that are going to deal with the rigors of the touring life, with the bumps, with the shakes. You know what I mean? It's not exactly a delicate world.
No, we tour quite a bit.
Right. So, really, I guess our standard then is for the standard tour of an Eagles of Death Metal tour, which would be continuous and rigorous. What is it that has brought you to select orange?
Well, they sound amazing, for one thing. And for what we're doing, just pure rock and roll. They are an original rock amplifier. And we travel all over. We fly all over the world, and our amps always work and sound great.
I don't use pedals. And I didn't start out not using pedals. You know this. But I really am the rhythm guitarist. So for me, I want a sound that's guaranteed, immediate, and merely requires my guitar and my performance.
Right.
And the combination for me of the Maiden guitar, because that's what I love about, first of all, I love the way the orange receives my instrument.
Absolutely.
Because that's a critical part of the process. An instrument will be received differently by different amplifiers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's why sometimes you'll pick this Gibson to be played through this Supro, or you know what I mean. That's the way we'll think in terms sometimes. And so, for me, my guitars are so incredibly well made and made to such precise specifications. A pedal interferes with it sometimes, you know. And the orange receives that instrument, and together it's almost like I'm the pedal. We've talked a little bit about live performance, but let's talk about the recorded performance. That sometimes is where I exclusively use pedals.
Yeah.
Now, what is there an orange that you sometimes would use for recording, and is there a reason why?
I usually stick with the OR50 and the Dual Darks just because I prefer their clean yet biting sound. You can hear all the notes, and there's a bit of bite to it because we don't play overly heavy tones. You know, we don't get super distorted. We like to play sort of clean but loud, and I stick with those because I like those a lot.
See, for me personally, a lot of the secret of my sound is that I typically dispense with the amp. So all my Maiden will go direct into the board via either a Mosrite, Fuzzrite, or a hand-signed, autographed edition of the Roger Mayer Axis Fuzz pedal. Those are my secret weapons. But the OR20, in my opinion, is quite possibly the most perfectly engineered amplifier ever. It's the 20-watt tube head with the small cabinet.
Yeah, they're killer.
It's the perfect blend. I have achieved some of the most incredible tones on our records through the OR20. And I even love the... See, I think orange is kind of like a badge of honor for me as well. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It's inherently only for me because of the quality and the sound that it produces, and that it's consistent for us every time. Yeah. I'm a great believer in a band having an identity through sound, and our sound is incredibly important, and you don't mess with that, you don't alter that. you keep it. So the Stones sound like the Stones, and those are my heroes. I think we should try to be like that. But the orange is the cradle of our sound. Some would call that classic, but I just think that's quintessential.
Yeah.
And I mean, wouldn't you agree, Davey?
Absolutely. I mean, my friend Tate Yon played one in 77. He had an original orange, and the newer ones sound very close to the original sound, which was...
And I think we shouldn't forget that really, for me, even though music laden videos for us, like Black Sabbath, Iron Man, always had the oranges in the background. The reason why I choose orange, the hero through which I came to orange is Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder plays oranges. All of his incredible tones, all of his incredible sounds, every live bootleg you'll ever get, that incredibleness is all being played through orange. And I think Stevie Wonder is really an excellent example to look to as a means to see the real value of orange, because of his natural blindness, he's one of the only individuals who can see music. He sees it. He sees music. You can hear it in the way he produces. You can hear it in the way he builds. And if the man who can truly see music more perfectly than anyone ever born sees orange, that was the first indication for me, is like a big finger going, go to orange. And then go to orange.
But also out of all the amps made these days, they're pretty much the most consistent
in quality.
Like every one I played through all sound the same. With Marshalls, some sound good, some sound.
It's like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And
with Orange, every one of the OR50s that I've used always sounds solid.
Also, it's these are troubled times we live in. Let's face it, and the Orange is the only amplifier that maintains the consistency of quality. It feels quality. And something that's really quality and worth it will have a price tag that demonstrates that. But it's what makes the effort for it worth the value, because it is the most consistently delivering professional sound device that I think is on the market. Right. And most people know that you and I, Davey, have never signed anything with Orange. We are loyal to them.
Yeah.
Loyal to them by virtue of how they've been loyal to us. I would never personally ever consider, and I mean this with all my heart, ever play anything other than an Orange. I would never play any guitar other than a Maiden, ever. Not ever, because there's no point. I have faith in the quality of it consistently, time and again. Because I have the luxury of knowing some of the business side of Orange, I know they're wonderful people. They love music. They're music lovers. It's a music lovers company, and the sound really does have a color, and it's orange. As we were kind of hinting at, our whole process is incremental. It's not one thing or the other. Davey uses a combination of amplifier choice, guitar choice, fingered implements like slides, and the manner in which they'll combine with the different effects, the accoutrement really, because Davey has pedals that don't drive the sound, they augment it. That's critical, because most pedals will change the sound. And I think that's kind of a weaker way to do it, or a quicker way to do it. Davey is able to have a variety of pedals that don't require some like space age, equilibriumizer or whatever you want to call it, because it's an accoutrement, it's an addendum to the sound. So the guitar sound will always be at the core. You know what I mean? And to me, it's one of the reasons why I look up to Davey and admire him so much, and why I know he's one of the finest guitar players in the world, because he approaches it from like a real, how do I put it? There's a lot of magicians running around doing tricks, but Davey's a wizard, for real. And it shows itself in everything he does. It's true, Davey.
Well, thank you very much.
It's true, and I mean this.
And I really use pedals only for solos on certain songs. I don't really use...
Yeah, like that's what I mean. It's an addendum.
Yeah.
So our sound comes from a combination of the instruments we choose, the means by which we interface them, and our tuning. And it all really starts with the tuning, because our tuning is a modification of the Spanish G. So, it was used because I'm a hillbilly and I don't like to think too much. But it turns out you got to think more. And mostly because we didn't have bass in the beginning. It was just Davey and I. So the way we tune the guitar, it stacks 4 strings on the same frequency, and that's like it achieves a bass frequency. It feels like a bass. So the open tuning we use is critical to everything. I will write using maybe a MIDI keyboard or something, but I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just want to be in a good rock band, and this is what I do. My mom says I Quentin Tarantino-wise classic rock radio, but I just see it more as special forces of rock and roll. This is got, like the Ramones, they had one song, but it was one of the most badass songs ever. I can listen to Jumpin' Jack Flash all day long, so I just do that with my own music. Yeah. There's nothing new under the sun, man. And no one really steals from anyone in the arts, they merely are possessed by it. And you sort of borrow the same devils and possess them, really. And it seems a lot lonelier to try to be original in a world where, no, fresh. Rock and roll's like milk. It ain't nothing new, but it's only good when it's fresh.